Hey, I'm Stephanie, and it's time to talk about how perimenopause is changing my skincare, because it's kind of wreaking havoc with every area of my life. And although I am able to deal with most of the symptoms privately, my skin isn't one of them because it's visible everywhere I go. So today we'll discuss what kind of changes perimenopause can cause in the skin, what I'm doing to deal with those changes, and also if I'm willing to now pay more for skincare because my skin is struggling so much. And if so, what criteria does that skincare have to meet in order to justify the higher price? Just in case you don't know what it is, perimenopause is a phase of life that can last about 10 years before menopause, and that's when a woman's fertility ends. During this time, hormones fluctuate like crazy, causing all sorts of weird things to happen, and it's kind of like a House of Horrors version of puberty for middle-aged people with ovaries. I've personally come to think of it as puberty's evil older sister, because if you name a potential symptom of perimenopause, and there are a lot of them, and some of them are quite hefty, chances are I have it, and none of them are really fun. If you happen to be in your 20s or 30s and you're watching this, I don't want to fill you with dread for the future. Not everybody gets all the symptoms, and there are plenty of people out there who sail through this phase of life without a problem at all. If you happen to be one of them, I am so happy for you. Although a small part of me, probably the irrational, hormonal, mood-swingy part, kind of hopes that the fleas of 1,000 camels infest your armpits. But the rational part of me celebrates the ease of your transition. If you are currently experiencing this glorious phase of life yourself, what has been the most challenging symptom for you so far? Acne, brain fog, insomnia, joint pain, murderous rage? They're all so exciting. Feel free to commiserate with me in the comments. When it comes to me and my skin, I've been noticing several changes. A puffier face, more fine lines and discoloration, less elasticity, and my rosacea has really been kicking into high gear. And it all happened very suddenly. It was as if I went to bed one night looking just like I had pretty much for the past 20 years, and I woke up the next morning with a kind of puffy, melting face. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here panicking about my looks or thinking that I suddenly look horrible. This is a natural process, and I'm not afraid to look my age. But I did kind of get used to the way that my face has looked for the past 20 years, and it is a little bit unsettling to see such sudden changes in a face that I see every single day. Perhaps it'll make more sense if I put it this way. The main difference I've seen in my skin is that I used to wake up in the morning and just feel like I looked like me. I didn't have to do anything, I just looked like myself. Now when I wake up in the morning, I feel like I need to invest some time and effort before I look like myself again. My concerns are less about looking like I'm aging and more about the general feeling that I just don't even know my own body anymore. Because this is just one of so many changes that are currently going on. And I guess seeing myself like this has made me wish that, if possible, it would be nice if I could slow the process down, if only so that I can mentally catch up with what's physically going on. And maybe if I'm lucky, I might even be able to avoid looking like a Dali painting. So today, I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been doing to feel more like myself in my own skin, because I kind of wish that I had discovered people talking about this before I entered this phase of my life, just so that I would know what to expect and also know that there are definitely things I can do about it. The first way that perimenopause is changing my skincare is that I am simplifying the number of topicals that I am using on my face. I used to be the kind of person who had a ton of lotions and potions. I had a set for the morning. I had a different set for the evening. In the morning, I would be using a cleanser, then a vitamin C serum, a moisturizer. Maybe if I happened to have a sample of eye cream laying around, I'd use that, and then I'd add some sunscreen. Then at the end of the day, I would be doing a double cleanse, and then I would be using an exfoliant, an essence, a lotion, a moisturizer, maybe that eye cream. Maybe, I don't know, I'd also top it all off by slugging with a more occlusive moisturizer. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something because that's the kind of person I am now, a person who forgets everything. Thank you, brain fog. But here are two things that have been happening and are due to perimenopause that have made me want to simplify my skincare. The first is that I don't seem to be able to deal with stress nearly as well these days. So I've been trying to simplify every area of my life, and that includes my skincare. Clutter now just completely stresses me out, so I just need to have less stuff on my bathroom shelf for my own sanity. And the second thing is that my rosacea has been kicking into high gear. Estrogen has an anti-inflammatory effect on the body, and so during perimenopause, when our estrogen is fluctuating like crazy, that can lead to increased inflammation. One of the ways that inflammation has been manifesting in my body has been in increased flare-ups of rosacea, which is an inflammatory skin condition that I was diagnosed with years ago. And up until this point, it hadn't really bothered me all that much because I was usually able to keep it under really good control just by avoiding my trigger foods, eating an anti-inflammatory diet, and using red light therapy. But all of my old tricks seem to be losing their effectiveness during this phase of my life. So I've been trying to figure out how I can help my body and my skin calm down a little bit. I've been gradually overhauling my entire lifestyle, from what I eat to how I move to the way I sleep. But meat machines are complicated things and life is chaotic. So it's going to take a while for me to adjust and to figure out what works for me. And one of the ways I can find out what works for my skin is to simplify my lotions and potions to limit the ingredients that might potentially be contributing to my rosacea flare-ups. So now I have a relatively simple skincare regimen. In the mornings, I simply wash my face with water and a microfiber cloth, and the only other skincare that I use in the mornings is my sunscreen. And because that seems to have enough moisturizing ingredients in it, I don't feel the need for a moisturizer right now. Most sunscreens seem to work like that for me, but if you'd like to see a list of specific products that I've been happily using in this way, I will link them in the show notes. But keep in mind, this video is more about the approach and less about the products. So if anything in this video happens to be inspiring you, then you might be able to do it with what you already have. My regular evening routine has been a little bit more involved, but it is still so much simpler than it used to be. Since January, I have still been doing a double cleanse, but after that, I've just been using a moisturizer with a little bit of azelaic acid for my rosacea. And then other than that, just slugging right under the eyes with my Lanolips 101 ointment. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that everyone go out and start slugging their under eyes because occlusive formulas like that can potentially cause milia, those little white bumps under the eyes. But for my skin, it has been game-changing. It doesn't give me milia, and it's worth it. So I've definitely simplified the number of lotions and potions I use at any given sitting, but for the past month now, I have also simplified the variety of products that I'm using, because for about the previous 18 months, I had been product hopping. I'd been using a bunch of different moisturizers simply because I was trying to use up all the samples I had. So I haven't really bought skincare in like almost 2 years. But a little over a month ago, I decided it might be better to just suck it up and go out and buy a set of skincare, because it's difficult to know if an ingredient might be triggering my rosacea if I'm using a different sample every few nights. So I have been trying Calecim skincare. It claims to calm inflammation, repair and hydrate skin, and have a firming and lifting effect. So that's what I've been using as my nightly routine for the past month. And because I always do my best to disclose where I get the products that I'm testing, I want to let you know that Calecim was kind enough to gift me their professional serum, their multi-action cream, and their restorative hydration cream. However, there is no obligation for me to review those things or to post about them, which means that I have time to really get to know their products so that I can give you a thorough review. And to be honest, if Calecim hadn't offered to send me those things, I don't know that I would have been trying them right now, at least, despite my longtime interest in the brand, because their price point is pretty high. For example, their moisturizer that they sent me at the time of filming costs $195 for 50 grams, which is about 1.7 ounces. Now, at this point in my life where my skin seems to need all the help it can get, I am willing to pay higher prices for skincare, but only under 3 conditions. The first is that expensive skincare would have to give me definitive, visible, and tangible results that are clearly and noticeably better than more affordable products. The second is that it would need to reduce the total number of individual items that I would need to purchase. For example, if the 3 products that Calecim sent me are able to do all the jobs of the 7 or 8 or 9 that I was using previously, then that would be a good investment because it would be saving me money over the long term because I would be purchasing fewer individual products less often. And the third third is I would have to be able to make a little go a long way. If I am going to spend almost $200 on a moisturizer, I want it to last at least 6 to 8 months. And because I had never tried Calecim before, I didn't know if their products would meet any of those criteria. And even though I've heard great things about their products, the price point is so high that I just wasn't willing to risk it. But now that I have the opportunity to test Calecim, I'll be able to let you know if I would be willing to repurchase these products with my own money. But of course, that's going to take a couple of months. With skincare, especially skincare with claims like Calecim, I usually find that it takes several months to really take complete stock of what it's doing to the skin. Because one of Calecim's ingredients is called PTT6, and they claim that this ingredient harnesses the cell's own ability to produce increased elastin and hyaluronic acid. In my experience with products that are made to improve the actual mechanisms within the cells is that I tend to see results after usually about 3 months. That was how it worked with my red light therapy and my at-home laser anyway, so I assume that it's probably going to be that way with Calecim as well. But what I can say after a month of use is that my skin does seem to be enjoying the creams. It feels hydrated and comfortable. The creams themselves are cosmetically elegant, don't have any fragrance, and a little does seem to go a long way, so it might actually meet that third criteria of mine that it has to be long-lasting. And of course, most importantly, it doesn't seem to be affecting my rosacea negatively, which is great. If you want to see my full Calecim review after I've had the time to fully test out all the products, then make sure you subscribe and like this video so you don't miss it. So the jury is still out on these specific products, but what I can say is that my skin does not seem to be suffering from the simplified routine. For example, I haven't been using vitamin C, but I don't feel like my complexion looks any duller. And I haven't been using any of my hydrating essences or lotions, and yet my skin still feels hydrated and plump. So far, so good. The second way that perimenopause is changing my skincare is that I feel like I am becoming more reliant on skincare devices to look the way I want to look. While I have reduced the number of topicals that I'm using, I have increased the number of times per week that I have been using my skincare devices. I have always been a bit of a gearhead, so I've collected several skincare devices over the years. A red light therapy mask, a nanocurrent device, at-home laser therapy, a gua sha tool, just to name a few. And I have always found that they did make a difference. However, now I find that I have come to depend on that difference. It's my thinking about skincare devices that has changed. I used to consider them an added bonus, a fun moment of self-care that felt nice and helped me look even better. And I enjoyed using them whenever I had time, but they never really felt necessary. But now, devices have become a much more essential part of my skincare. I don't just use them when I have time, I now make time to use them. At least when I want to look in the mirror and see that old familiar face that I'm so used to. They don't work miracles, but I do feel like they're helping me to slow this aging process down so I can mentally catch up to where my body already is at. And the last way that perimenopause is changing my skincare is that I have become very aware that every choice I make ends up on my face. If I eat refined sugars or grains now, I get acne. It's like reliving the most traumatic parts of middle school. If my sleep hygiene isn't impeccable, my rosacea flares up. If I don't drink enough water, my fine lines get more apparent by the minute. And if I don't do enough strength training, the skin on my face starts to look a little bit lax. I didn't even think that was a thing, but apparently it is. So I have become hyper aware that my lifestyle is a huge aspect of my skincare. Now, I've always kind of been aware of that because, our skin is a very large organ. And so if we are healthy, then our skin usually reflects that. But I used to be able to hide a multitude of sins behind a youthful facade. And now I feel like I can't even get away with tiny indiscretions like a late night. If I want to look my best, I have no choice. I have to treat my body well, and I have to treat it well most of the time. Things like drinking enough water, eating a well-rounded diet, strength training, breath work, stretching, sleeping well, avoiding alcohol. Those things are now not just great for my body, they have now also become necessary to maintain my skin. Basically, this used to be a given, and now I have to work for it. But I don't know that that's such a bad thing. I guess it's just an excuse to go lift some weights and go to bed early. #fun over 40. How has your skin been lately? Perimenopause or not, what has been working well for you? Are there any new trends that I should be looking into now that my skin seems to need all the help I can get? Let me know in the comments. If you liked this video, I hope you'll like, subscribe, maybe watch another video, all that jazz. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great week, and we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.